Welcome to the Developer Spotlight on the Full Dive Gaming Podcast. In the Developer Spotlight, we sit down with VR industry professionals. This week, Nat and Lee are sitting down with Jan from Oktoberfest VR. Jan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here.
We're so excited. And as we're saying thank you, we'll also have to say thanks to our sponsor, Asterion Products. If you're seeing us on YouTube today, you'll see some gorgeous VR mugs, sweaters, puzzles, all the cool things on the screen. Check them out on AsterionProducts.com and use code FULLDIVE to save $5 on any $20 or more order. Woohoo!
Starting off, could you just give us a quick description of Oktoberfest VR?
Oktoberfest, it's a big festival in Germany, Munich, Germany to be precise, and it's a very old and very traditional festival that is mostly known for the beer. You can call it Beer Fest, but what many people don't know is, or not many, but I think outside of Germany, it's not that well known that there's a big fairground around. So you have beer tents, and there obviously all the Bavarian beer is being consumed in huge quantities. But around that, there is a very old fairground. And some of those attractions that are there, they date like 100 years back. There are families running those attractions like carousels, roller coasters, haunted houses, shooting ranges, like all the things you have on normal fairgrounds. And with that also all the food booths. And K5 Factory is a Munich-based company, and I'm also from Munich originally. So we at some point thought like VR is such a great medium for everything that physical interaction and also perception of space and speed and all of that. And this was at some point we just realized Oktoberfest and the fairground around it is just very nicely suited for creating a VR experience, has all these things. There are many activities that you can play on the attractions, hitting something, throwing something, obviously roller coasters, very based on perception and work well in VR. And so the Oktoberfest is a social VR game. So everything you can play there is multiplayer, and it's basically a social VR fairground. So you go there, every attraction or booth you can interact, see other players playing those games.
Awesome.
So I think I can actually say this now, but I was one of the playtesters for Oktoberfest.
Oh, nice.
For Impact Labs. And I can say that you did an amazing job of capturing the vibe of Oktoberfest. The sights, the sounds, the music, the conversations that you can hear. You can actually, it really feels like you're there, like you're catching a bit of an Oktoberfest. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Nice to hear.
I also want to ask, what inspired you to make Oktoberfest VR?
Yeah, good question. So Munich-based company, K5 Factory, me being born in Munich, and the Oktoberfest is something we call the fifth season in Munich. So you have spring, summer, Oktoberfest, autumn, winter.
Okay.
Love it.
Although it's just 2 weeks. So yeah, that's how it's called.
It's a short season.
Yeah, it's really, a special time during the year in the city of Munich where this takes place. It's also, it's a fair ground that is in an area of Munich that is an open lawn. Like it is there, and every year it has to be built and then deassembled again. So in that area, there's not allowed to build anything, but the Oktoberfest every year has to be built and deassembled, which is pretty amazing because there are time lapses of it on YouTube, and you can see like all the stuff happening in a very short time. But that's not answering your question.
That's very interesting to know.
It is interesting.
So, sprinkling in random facts. No, but what inspired us? So the original, the very first idea was during the lockdown in Munich, during Corona, and we at K5 Factory were discussing or working on virtual meeting rooms and platforms. Back then, many people did that who was doing VR.
Yes.
So I still remember, I think it was during a weekend or so, I was sitting there and it was obvious that Oktoberfest wasn't going to happen because you don't want to put millions of people in a beer tent during COVID. So, and this is very exceptional because Oktoberfest, I think, exists since 200 years now, and I think there were only one time where it wasn't happening.
Wow.
And so everyone was like, oh God, it's not going to happen. The fifth season is not going to take place this year. So, and then there was just this random idea, hey, why not make it virtual? Let's do a virtual, like a VR experience out of it. And in the beginning, it was really just kind of more like a joke. And then, then Corona passed, and all that went away. And luckily there was the first Oktoberfest after COVID, everything fine. But the idea didn't kind of leave us, because the more we thought about it, the more we saw things that were really fitting to the medium VR. And as I said earlier, it's a social experience. And I think for me, that's one of the key things VR as a medium has, innovated. It's the feeling of presence, that you feel the presence of being somewhere, but also feeling the presence of another person when you're doing a social VR experience. And I think that is so special in VR, because like when we are talking here, we see each other on the screen, but we don't have a feeling for the other person being there in front of us.
Right.
And that, like, we just realized that while working on other social VR experiences, that this is so unique. And we wanted to have like Oktoberfest is also about being together with other people, having a great time with other people. You go to a fairground with your family, with your friends, or you go there to meet new people. And we just thought, hey, let's find a way to take this experience into the virtual world, where in VR it works so well with feeling the presence of other person. And this is kind of why we thought it's a very good idea to transfer this fun fair into VR.
So I actually played it completely alone, went in the first time just by myself and played. And it was fun. Playing the mini games, riding the rides, and seeing the sights and sounds and all that was great. But then when I went in with a group, and it was a group of people I knew, it took it to a different level. It was a lot of fun, and everyone, playing the trombone and laughing and throwing food at people. And it was so different. It's kind of like real life. In real life, going to an Oktoberfest alone, there's things to do, but going with a fun group makes it so much better.
So for us, it was the idea that on a fairground fun fair, you have all these booths and things you can do. And we thought this is, the perfect glue, or the perfect, catalyst maybe for social interaction. So if you play with someone that you might not know yet, you might get into, in a mood where you start getting to know each other just by playing. And that's what we really liked about the idea of making a fun fair in VR.
So what were some of the challenges you face making Oktoberfest VR?
There were many. So first of all, I think the biggest challenge, and I think we are still in the middle of it, is that VR is just a niche market, very niche market compared to gaming as a whole. So you really have to find your audience within an already small market. So this is a just persistent challenge. But other challenges were that, first of all, multiplayer. Everything is multiplayer, which makes it so much more difficult to develop and also to test, because you cannot just, test it by yourself. You always have to be a group. And then suddenly things don't work when you're like 10 people, but they work when you're 2 people. This is a challenge. Then the other challenge, just developing in the medium VR, because like when you're developing on a screen-based game, you can just hit play in Unity and just test it like this. But when you're developing VR, you always have to put on the glass to really see how things work. Like simple UI, UX things. Where do you position a menu? Where do you position some kind of information? How can you make sure that people find the information that they should find? And this is like just UX wise, VR is so much more complex than 2D screen based. The games are all physics based. So you throw stuff, you hit stuff, and this is together with multiplayer. This adds yet another challenge because things might fly like the ball, when I throw it, might fly perfectly well for me, but then if others look at it, they see that it's kind of jaggy in midair. And so so there were at some point we just realized, okay, I think we were doing like the hardest thing you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely lots of challenges with VR and multiplayer together.
And physics.
Yeah, all the hard things.
Yeah.
You did some great things though, because in the mini games there you can see the leaderboards for the global leaderboard, but also your friend list. Yeah. So if I get a great score on can toss or the frog jumper game, and then Nat comes in and beats it, I have an incentive to go back in there again and try to beat her score. And that's pretty big. And then there's the monthly winners, and then kind of the Hall of Fame thing that you have going on. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Like the Hall of Fame is something fun because there actually is a Hall of Fame there. Like everything you see in our game is based on the real Oktoberfest. So it's all obviously a bit smaller. Like we have those, I think, three. We have 3 big beer tents, but in real it's like 6 or 7. So we just reduced the amount of things, but the layout and also how the things look, even how the things sound, it's all based on the real thing. Obviously more stylized because it has to run on a MetaQuest 2. Another challenge, by the way, in VR, that you have a mobile processor and it has to, run with 70 frames per second. So,
yes.
And just what I wanted to say is that Hall of Fame that you see in the game, it actually is a Hall of Fame at the real place. There is on this this big open lawn in Munich, there is this it looks like a temple, and in front of it there's this big statue. And in this kind of temple, you have like all the famous Bavarian personalities as busts. And we thought, hey, let's use that for our Hall of Fame, and we show the busts of player avatars.
There is some incentive there when you see the Hall of Fame to try to get into the Hall of Fame. Like there's some incentive. I think Alex VR is in there, and it was annoying me that he was so much better than me at so many games, and I was really just trying to beat Alex.
Oh, that's so funny.
Nice.
So you're talking about all these great elements of Oktoberfest. How did you go about creating the immersive experience for players that captures that atmosphere and feeling of Oktoberfest?
Yeah, so like with everything I do, I think it's because I was working as animation film director before, and I always I mostly did adaptations of books. So, and there, for me, it was always important to, stay true to the original. That's a sentence that I said many times, especially when you're adapting books. You want to do that because those were known books and people know the book and they watch the film and they don't want to be disappointed thinking, oh, well, the book was kind of nicer. And the same thing applied for this game. We wanted to stay close to the original in the feeling of it, in the looks of it, and the sounds of it. And what did we do? We did research on the Oktoberfest. And everyone was laughing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So we went there, took a lot of pictures, we actually did research. So we went there, photographed each booth, each attraction from the inside, from the outside, took audio recordings, field recordings with different kinds of microphones. Like there are really cool microphones by now that is like those binaural sounds. I don't know if you know them, but they capture, like the sound as if you're hearing it as a human. Anyway, and like we recorded all of that. We took lots of pictures. We even, got in close contact to the attraction owners, to the booth owners, to the tent owners. So even as we are an official game, it means we are official partner of the city of Munich and basically have the license to do the game. And so they opened up a lot of doors for us, and we were able to really talk to the people who are working there, doing those rides and so on. And that helped us a lot to create a very authentic experience. And it was very important for us. So when we create a new booth, we always looked in our, thousands of photos and thought, okay, which booth do we want to take now? Are we going to take this one or this one? And it had to be one that really existed.
Mm.
Yeah, I
That's
saw
so
that
awesome.
at the beginning of the game.
Love
You
it.
actually see a big screen that says officially licensed. I think it was by the city of Munich.
Yeah, true.
That they probably don't hand that out lightly. I imagine they want something that's going to be fairly real to real life.
Yeah, we had to pitch the project to them. They had to give us the green light, but they kind of trusted us from the beginning, because that's also how we pitched it to them. We said, hey, we don't want to just create something. We want to, recreate the real thing as close as possible, because we also see a kind of cultural aspect in it. Of course, it's a big festival and it's just, for fun. But then, as it's so old, like 200 years old, there is a lot of tradition. There's a lot of, things that are very typical for Munich, very typical for Bavaria. And we want to, take that and show it to the world. And the city of Munich really liked the idea. So we were lucky. And
that is great. I'm wondering, is there something, did you come across like a really interesting tidbit about Oktoberfest, or like anything surprising that you came across?
Yeah, there are so many things. Like we have our own little category for it with fun facts that you see during the loading screens, because there's so much. One of the most interesting ones for me was that Albert Einstein worked on the Oktoberfest as a kid.
Oh, that is really cool. That is so awesome.
He was screwing light bulbs in one of the tents, which is really fun. And then, but there are other things, like there is this big statue. It's not really Oktoberfest, but there is this big statue, the Bavaria, in front of that Hall of Fame, and this is made out of metal, and the metal, it's a bit like the Statue of Liberty, but much smaller. And that metal is from cannons from the Turks.
Whoa! Wow!
There's so much.
That's interesting.
There's so much history that is in there, and and also other stuff that we, as people being born in Munich, knowing the Oktoberfest, for us it's pretty common, but for others, fun fact that if you buy a beer on the Oktoberfest, you can only buy 1 liter. You cannot buy like half a liter also. It has to be 1 liter.
Oh, really? Interesting.
There's minimums. I would have, here in the United States, it'd be maximums, but there's minimums.
There's a minimum, yeah.
A liter?
Yeah, you have to buy
That's
a liter.
A lot.
I know. And
wow.
it's really strong on top of that. So.
Oh my God.
I'm not a big beer drinker, but
well, that makes it even more of a fun time.
Yeah.
That's going to kickstart a few things, I think. Starting with the leader. Can you tell us about the character customizations, like what kind of options there are and how you go about customizing your character?
Sure. So we had at K5, we have worked on another project just before Oktoberfest, which also had a avatar system in it. It also was a kind of a social project, but not as a live multiplayer game. So people could also have avatars, others could see them. So we already had some experience there. And one thing that we decided back then, it was a client project, and that we took over to the Oktoberfest project, is that you don't choose a gender. So you just style yourself, and by styling your avatar, you determine what gender you are. But it's not like you have to pick male, female in the beginning.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
Do what you want.
Yeah. And people never miss it. It's really fun. You have those two options. So we have the avatar physical appearance editor, how we call it internally. We should probably call it differently. Anyway, and there you basically customize your face and your skin color, your hair, so all the physical aspects of your character. And then you also have the clothing options, the outfit. That's the other part. And for that we created a bunch of assets first for hairstyles, eye shapes, mouth shapes, skin colors, obviously. And we have a great character designer on board, Menno. His name is Menno, and then he designed all these assets. They had to be low poly, and but I think we found a pretty nice look to those characters. That coming from animation filmmaking, that was important for me. That characters look more or less appealing. And
Yeah, in the game, you'll see me running around with gray hair. I'm really tall, and I'm wearing lederhosen.
Love it.
Yeah, and with the outfits, we definitely have like a lot of inspiration from the traditional clothing that people wear on the Oktoberfest, because that's yet another aspect why we thought Oktoberfest is really nice for a social VR game, because people go to the Oktoberfest, even, Munich, like especially people in Munich, they dress up, right? They have their lederhosen or they have their dirndl, how it's called. It's like female Bavarian traditional dresses. And that's a thing, when like it became a thing recently. It wasn't a thing when I was like a teenager. Back then, it wasn't like everyone would dress up traditionally. It was more like the people from like deep Bavaria, but not the people from Munich. So I don't have a lederhosen, I have to admit. But like nowadays, it really became a thing, and it's nice. Like it looks nice, and we thought that's a perfect thing also for a VR experience, because you can go there like and style your avatar. That's basically what you do in real. You style yourself when you go there. And we have those traditional outfits. Some of them are actually in collaboration with a traditional outfit designer from Munich. She is doing really nice designs. And she said, "Oh, I love the project. Please, can you also integrate some of my outfits?" And I say, "Okay, cool, let's do that." And but of course, we also have others, like just regular caps, shirts, trousers. We could take a lot of our research that we did from our previous project, where we also had an avatar system, and there we researched a lot of clothing styles, and we can basically very well use that knowledge.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I love how there's so much customization that you can do. Can you tell us more about the activities that players can do and how they correspond to the real life Oktoberfest experiences?
Sure. So first of all, the experience is free to play. That is important because the real Oktoberfest is also for free. You don't have to pay any entry fees, nothing. You can just walk on the place, roam around, see all the attractions. You don't pay entry fee. And that's why we thought, hey, this really makes sense as a free to play experience. Also because, people should get in there. Like we want to have as many as people as possible roaming that area. So it matched. And also the city of Munich actually was asking that. Is it going to cost something or not? And we said no, because the real place doesn't cost any to get on. So this is like the very first thing to say. But when you go there, we have a couple of mini games that you can play at booths. So one of them is a game where you have catapults. And on the catapults, there are rubber frogs, and you hit the catapult with a hammer, and then you catapult these frogs into flowers. And this is based on a real attraction on the Oktoberfest. So exact same thing. In real, it's so damn hard to hit those flowers because those frogs are like huge and the flowers are pretty small and they're turning and so on. Of course, it's pretty hard because you buy those frogs and then you want to hit the flowers to win some kind of plush or something. But we thought it's a fun concept. We added it and changed, of course, it gamified it more. So you can collect power-ups, we have different game modes where the targets appear and disappear and so on. So this is one game. Then we have a shooting range. On the Oktoberfest, on a real one, we have a lot of those shooting ranges where you have air guns and you're shooting for roses or little stars. And when you hit it, enough of them, you win some plush or some other prize. When you think about it, it's pretty insane that you have, drunken people running around and then you have shooting range.
They have to have at least a liter of beer.
Yeah.
And now
that's the thing, people are drunk, they never hit anything. So that's also part of the concept. But still, it's fun in VR. We have a gun, we have those targets and they move, and we have leaderboards there. You have several levels that you can complete. What else? We have Cantos, very simple Cantos game as well. Very common on Oktoberfest. You get a bunch of balls and then you have some cans and you hit the cans, and the more you hit over, the more likely is that you win some prize. And we, again, gamified it a bit more, that there are different layouts of cans. In some levels, you have exploding cans or cans that give you additional balls, some physics that might trip and so on. So this is a game with different we try to get as much out of that very simple mechanic as possible. And it's quite fun because you're doing the throwing in VR. What else do we have? We have motion rides, which is also a very important part of the Oktoberfest. So there is a big Ferris wheel, which also on the real one, it's kind of highlight. You see it always in the back. Very big Ferris wheel. We have the same thing in our game that you can get on, and then you see the area, you see the other players running around. We have a skyfall, we call it. It's a tower where you are dragged up and then you fall down. Also very fun in VR because you really feel that sense of falling.
Yes.
And then we have this is the intermediate thing. And then we have the advanced thing, which is the top spin. Top spin is a motion ride on the real Oktoberfest where you're sitting on a kind of bench with other people. And this bench is rotating on two arms and in itself. So there's a lot of rotation going on, which is pretty fun. But it's, of course, something where you need some VR legs for it.
For sure.
You definitely do. Yep.
But
go for it.
I love rides in VR because I cannot handle most rides in real life.
Yeah.
But in VR, you still feel the motion of it, even though the motion's not actually happening. But I found if I close my eyes, then if it's too much, then I'm, you could take the headset off or whatever. Yeah. So I like it because it's exciting and fun, but I can handle it.
Yeah, I totally get it because that's the thing. On the real one, you just in the middle of the ride, you can just say, take me off.
Yes. Yeah.
Which causes them to make the ride twice as long. Yeah. The moment you say, get me off, they double the time.
Yeah. Increase the speed. So what else do we have? We have in the beer tent.
I saw some areas that were under construction. It actually looked like there was kind of a Halloween thing, like a haunted house thing going on.
Yeah. They are definitely under construction. So there are so many other things like attractions that have, great potential for more games. Like Haunted House, definitely one that we are currently working on trying to. It's a difficult one because we have a nice idea for it, but we want to have it really good. So, under construction. Then we have a bumper cars.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Bumper cars also, that was one of the earliest games we developed, and it's real fun. The problem was because it was one of the earliest ones that we prototyped and that, it had a lot of flaws, and we had to take it off the release version, and we're currently, refactoring the whole code and so on to make it work more solid. And it will be an update soon. So we'll have a bumper car experience, and it will be the first, the only for now, and the first one with AI opponents as well. So when you're alone, you will always have some other people driving.
Oh, that makes sense for bumper cars, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the next one that's going to be released. But what we have in the game at the moment as well is there are those beer tents. And the beer tents, in the beginning, we thought, okay, what are we doing in there? Because in real, what are you going to do in a beer tent? You drink a lot of beer and eat a lot of food. Yeah. So that's difficult to recreate in VR. Although you can eat virtual foods in our game, which is fun, but it's not something that you spend a lot of time with. So we thought, okay, what could be nice? And then we thought about what's going on in those tents. So there are two things that we thought have a great potential for a game. So one is there's always a live band, traditional brass band. And we thought at the time we started working on that project, Trombone Champ came out, the PC version, the original one. And we thought, oh, that's perfect. We just created a trombone game in VR, and you're on that stage. Other people can listen to you while you play, while you fail or while you succeed. And we created that game. And then by now it's so cool because now there's also Trombone Champ VR, which is amazing. I love it. I played it on the Gamescom. And then there's another game which is also, I think, very fitting to the beer tents. I don't know if you ever saw that, but there are, those waiters and waitresses that run through the beer tents, with 30 liters of beer, carrying them. And we thought, okay, we need a serving kind of game, a time management, overcooked style kind of game, not so much cooking, more, handing out stuff.
Yes.
And so we have that tent full of NPCs, and when you play the game as a waiter or waitress, you get those orders, you see them from the NPCs, and you have to grab the right food and bring it to them. And it's quite nice because if other players play it at the same time, you see those people, running around trying to serve the NPCs.
I actually spent the most time playing that game, the running around serving food. Nice. And for all of the listeners or YouTube viewers, I'll give you a hint. Use teleport motion to get there faster. As soon as I started doing that, my scores started going up.
Yeah,
nice.
Makes
Good tip.
sense. It was fun when we were, this year, obviously, we were on the Oktoberfest. Today, by the way, is the last day of Oktoberfest, the real one. I think there's 1.5 hours left and it's over for this year. Anyway, and when we were in the tent this year with the company, we're like, okay, now we are the NPCs.
Now it's the perfect reason for everyone to get into Oktoberfest VR because Oktoberfest itself is ending.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask the beta for Oktoberfest launched in June. The official launch date was September 20th. Correct me if I'm wrong. From what I saw, that's what it was.
That's right. No.
So how has player feedback from the beta and the official launch influenced the development of the game post-launch?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So there is a lot of feedback, and as Assassin just earlier said, he was also part of the Impact Labs group, and we hired Impact Reality to conduct this Impact Labs playtesting, and that was very important to us, and that's why we were really lucky to find them, because we wanted to gather user feedback early on. During the beta phase, and then VR, it's not that easy to get, to have access to many players easily. So we were really lucky that we could go that route, and got a lot of feedback. That parts of it we already put into the game. For some of them we are still working on. One very simple one that surprised us, and we are currently putting in there, is smooth turn. We didn't think that this is a thing so many people would ask for, because some people really don't like it in terms of motion sickness. And that was one smaller aspect of the feedback that we definitely put in the game. Other things were of course, more rides, more attractions. That's also a very frequent one. When can we enter haunted house?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's funny, seeing that under construction thing really makes you want to do it. It's like, I can't have it. I want it.
And then we had that was even, I think, before Impact Labs, but we had other games developed and tested it with smaller groups of people before, and noticed, okay, it's just not as fun. And then we just didn't continue working on that one. It might come back in a different form. It was a game where you have to tap beer. You get orders, more like actually Overcooked, where you get an order and then you have to prepare the drinks. But it turned out not to be that funny, and maybe we're going to add it again in a slightly changed version together with the serving game, that some people prepare the food and the drinks and others serve it. But let's see.
I can see doing that and kind of having a team score.
Yeah, exactly.
If Nat and I go in there together and she's serving and I'm cooking, that we get a team score that goes up on the list.
Right. Yeah, those are some user feedbacks that we got, and we are constantly getting new, and we're really trying to balance things. In terms of we have to figure out what's the next thing on the roadmap.
All right. Well, this has been so interesting. Is there anything else we didn't talk about today that you wanted to cover?
I'm pretty happy with our little conversation. I just want to say I want to thank our team who worked so hard on this project, and I think they did an amazing job, and all our internal developers and artists, but also the external. So that's something I want to get out there.
So
great.
How many people does it take to put out a game like Oktoberfest?
Well, it really depends on the length you're developing it. We had a time frame of 2 years, and in total, I would say we were 20 to 25 people. So it's a medium-sized. a lot, definitely if you compare it to single developers. But we have one, like our project manager joined us last year. No, actually, beginning of this year. Or was it? No, it was last year, end of last year. And she came from Ubisoft. And that's a much bigger team, Assassin's Creed, the VR game. And so there can be more, there can be less. I think 2025 is it's a manageable team for a small company. I think if we grow much bigger, then the structures have to change. But I'm really happy that we are that size, because you're in touch with everyone. You kind of,
yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
really
they
nice.
did an amazing job in all those aspects, and especially on those like very hard challenges that we were facing.
Many
yes,
lots of challenges with all the hardest aspects of VR.
Yeah. So
Well,
last thing would just be go download the game and play it.
yes, for sure. And we're going to make sure there are links in our description and show notes so everyone can check out the game, feel the amazing atmosphere of Oktoberfest, even though Oktoberfest is over. And again, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us about Oktoberfest VR.
So happy to be here.
Love it. And it's been so interesting learning all these cool things about the game and just Oktoberfest in general. And for everyone listening, remember, if you're listening to this podcast, you can stop by the YouTube channel to see us chatting face to face, and you can comment there. Or if you're watching, you can take us on the go on any major podcast platform, and you can also rate and review us. That really helps us out. If you're here and thinking about finally taking the dive into VR, just dive on in.
Dive on in.